Tyreek Hill, released by the Dolphins, ignored by 32 NFL teams for 2 months straight, and now reportedly exploring options that no one in the league office saw coming. The idea of one of football's most electrifying players taking his talents somewhere outside the NFL's control has sent shockwaves through ownership circles, and the reasons why go far deeper than anyone expected. So let's get into how we got here. In September 2025, Tyreek Hill suffered a dislocated knee and torn ACL during Week 4 of the season, ending his year after just 4 games. At the time, he had recorded 21 catches for 265 yards and a touchdown, modest numbers that barely scratched the surface of what this man had done before. But the injury itself wasn't what sent shockwaves through the NFL. It was what came after. The Miami Dolphins released Hill on February 16, 2026, on President's Day, weeks before free agency began on March 11th. The franchise that had given him a 4-year, $120 million extension in 2022, and then a restructured deal in 2024 worth $90 million over 3 years, with $65 million guaranteed. An NFL record for guaranteed money added without extending the length of a contract, decided that the man was no longer worth keeping. His cap hit for 2026 had ballooned to a staggering $51.1 million. The Dolphins had a new head coach in Jeff Hafley and a new general manager in John Eric Sullivan. A full regime change. Hill was part of the old era. The new Miami wanted nothing to do with it. Hill was one of 4 Dolphins players released that Monday, and together those cuts cleared over $56 million in cap space. This wasn't a strategic restructure, it was demolition. The Dolphins were tearing it down, and in the rubble lay one of the most productive wide receivers to ever play the game. 819 career receptions, 11,363 yards, and 83 touchdowns. A 5-time first-team All-Pro, an 8-time Pro Bowler, a man who once became the first player in NFL history to post multiple 1,700-yard receiving seasons, both in 2022 and 2023. A man who led the NFL in receiving yards and touchdown catches during the 2023 campaign, with 1,799 yards and 13 scores. A man who just 2 years earlier told the Dolphins he wanted to retire in Miami because his family loved it there. None of that mattered, not to the new regime in Miami, and apparently not to any of the other 31 teams in the NFL either. Because here's the thing that has people talking. It's now mid-April 2026. Free agency opened over a month ago. The NFL draft is right around the corner, and Tyreek Hill remains unsigned 1 full month into the new league year, and it seems extremely unlikely that he will find a new home until after the NFL draft. That is a 5-time first-team All-Pro sitting by his phone, waiting. And the phone isn't ringing. That silence is what led to whispers about Hill looking outside the NFL entirely. And those whispers are what have owners across the league feeling a kind of anxiety they haven't experienced in years. The question everyone keeps circling back to is simple. How does a player with Tyreek Hill's resume end up with 0 offers from 32 NFL franchises for over a month? The answer, unfortunately, is layered. First and foremost, the knee. Hill suffered a devastating, season-ending knee injury, a dislocated knee and torn ligaments, in Week 4 of the 2025 season. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, went on record saying that this wasn't a run-of-the-mill ACL tear. It was a multiple ligament injury. Multiple ligaments. That distinction matters because a standard ACL tear in the modern NFL is nearly routine in terms of recovery. Players come back from those all the time. But when you're dealing with multiple ligaments, the recovery timeline stretches, the uncertainty multiplies, and the medical evaluation becomes the single most important factor in any team's decision. Rosenhaus has maintained that Hill is on track for the start of the regular season. He said publicly that he spoke to Hill's doctors and that he's on point to be ready for the season. Hill himself has not backed down either. When the Dolphins released him, he posted on Instagram within hours, writing the cheetah "Don't slow down." CBS Sports reported that Hill had been walking without a brace and had no intention of retiring. But teams aren't buying the optimism at face value, and there are other factors beyond the knee that are keeping front offices at arm's length. Hill is 32 years old. He's an older speed receiver coming off a severe injury, and he carries significant off-field baggage. That combination creates a risk profile that most organizations would rather avoid. A league source told Fox Sports that he is an older speed receiver coming off a severe injury with bad off-the-field history. That quote tells you everything about the temperature around the league. It's also worth remembering that Hill's 2024 production was already declining. before the injury even happened. He finished with 959 receiving yards, his lowest output since 2019. So the narrative isn't just about a player coming back from injury. It's about a player whose decline may have already begun before the knee blew out. And for a receiver whose entire game is built on speed, a tool that age erodes faster than anything else. The combination of 32 years, declining production, and a catastrophic knee injury is radioactive for front offices that rely on data-driven risk analysis. And yet, even with all those red flags, the talent is undeniable. Former Pro Bowl receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh, who trains receivers in the offseason, said that Hill is still elite because he's not just quick, he's quick and fast. It's a no-brainer if you're a team that feels like you're one big play receiver away. The talent has never been in question. The question is whether teams are willing to gamble on the body attached to the talent. So the phone stays silent. And in that silence, a different kind of conversation started happening behind the scenes. To understand why the idea of Tyreek Hill playing outside the NFL rattles owners, you need to understand a broader war that has been quietly intensifying for years. A war over who controls professional football in America. For decades, the NFL has operated as the only viable destination for elite American football talent. There have been challengers, the USFL, the XFL, the AAF, the UFL, but none of them ever reached a point where they could legitimately compete for top-tier players. The NFL's monopoly on talent has been, in many ways, its greatest source of power. When you're the only game in town, you set the rules. You set the salaries. You set the terms. Players have exactly two choices: play for the NFL on the NFL's terms, or don't play at all. But the landscape is shifting. TKO Group Holdings, the entity born from the merger of UFC and WWE under Endeavor, has been aggressively expanding its sports portfolio, and that expansion has brought it into direct contact with the world of football. The UFL, which TKO has been involved with, represents a new model, one backed by real media money, real broadcast partners, and a willingness to sign players who feel undervalued or overlooked by the NFL establishment. The existence of a legitimate alternative, even if it doesn't pay NFL-level money, fundamentally changes the power dynamic between players and owners. And that's where the revolt comes in. Players across the league have been watching what's happening with Hill. They see a first-ballot Hall of Famer, a man who earned over $146 million in career NFL contracts, sitting without a job because 32 organizations collectively decided the risk wasn't worth it. And that collective inaction looks, to some players, less like prudent risk management and more like a coordinated freeze-out. The specter of collusion, whether real or perceived, fuels resentment. And resentment fuels the desire for alternatives. The idea that a star of Hill's magnitude might choose to play in a league outside the NFL's umbrella isn't just a hypothetical anymore. It's a credible threat. And if Hill were to sign with a competing league, even for a fraction of what he'd earn in the NFL, it would send a message that reverberates through every locker room in America. The message would be simple. The NFL does not own us. There are other options, and we are willing to explore them. That message terrifies owners. Not because of one player, but because of what it represents. The beginning of a shift where players have legitimate leverage beyond the collective bargaining agreement. If Hill plays elsewhere and performs well, it validates the idea that life after being frozen out of the NFL isn't the end. It proves that elite talent can thrive in other environments. And once that's proven, the floodgates open. Young players on rookie contracts who feel underpaid. Veterans on the wrong side of 30 who get cut for cap reasons. Players with off-field issues that the NFL's image-conscious franchises don't want to touch. All of those players now have a potential landing spot. And every player who lands outside the NFL and succeeds chips away at the league's most valuable asset, the illusion that it's the only place that matters. The revolt against TKO and the leagues it backs isn't really about any single entity. It's about the concept itself, the concept of competition. NFL owners have spent decades building a system where they hold all the cards. They control the draft. They control free agency. They control the salary cap. They control the franchise tag. Every mechanism in the NFL is designed to concentrate power in the hands of ownership. And now, for the first time in a generation, there's a credible challenge to that concentration. Even as whispers of Hill playing outside the NFL have grown louder, there are still NFL teams that have been connected to him. The problem is that none of them have pulled the trigger. The the Kansas City Chiefs have been the most prominent name in the conversation. Hill spent his first 6 seasons in Kansas City, won a Super Bowl there after the 2019 season, and was arguably the most dangerous weapon Patrick Mahomes ever had. The last time the Chiefs had a 1,000-yard receiver was Tyreek Hill in 2021. Their offense has not been the same since they traded him. Chris Jones posted an alarm clock emoji tagging Hill within hours of the Dolphins' release. Tyrann Mathieu went on his podcast to say a reunion makes football sense. Louis Riddick said on ESPN's First Take that, "Not only do they need him, he needs them." Kansas City has monitored Hill's recovery and has the cap flexibility to absorb a team-friendly one-year deal. Prediction markets had the Chiefs as the favorite on both Polymarket, 56.5%, and Kalshi, 30%. And yet still unsigned. The Chicago Bears were the second likeliest destination according to prediction markets, with Polymarket giving them a 44.6% chance. Chicago has available cap space and a need for a veteran wide receiver. After trading DJ Moore, the idea of Caleb Williams throwing deep balls to the cheetah excited fans, and Hill's presence could stretch defenses vertically and create more space for receivers like Rome Odunze and Luther Burden III. But Bears coach Ben Johnson expressed concerns about his passing game, noting that he's not very happy with us as an offensive staff, our ability to get the primary receiver open. The implication was that the Bears want to fix their system first, before adding more pieces. A cautious approach that doesn't help Hill. The Los Angeles Chargers were another intriguing option, with Jim Harbaugh's aggressive tendencies and Justin Herbert's need for a true deep threat. Mike McDaniel, Hill's former head coach in Miami, is now the offensive coordinator in LA, which provided a tantalizing familiarity element. The Washington Commanders were mentioned because of their need for speed on the perimeter and the departure of Deebo Samuel, and the New England Patriots were urged to sign Hill to a one-year deal, similar to what they gave Stephon Diggs, giving Drake May a proven weapon. Every one of these destinations made football sense. Every analyst could see the fit. PFSN projected Hill would sign a one-year contract worth $10.1 million. That's a bargain for a player with Hill's talent ceiling. And yet, as the weeks dragged on, the silence remained deafening. Hill's agent said he wants to play for a contender and is waiting for full medical clearance before signing. But from the outside looking in, the waiting game felt one-sided. It started to feel like the NFL as a whole had collectively decided to let Hill sit. And that's when the outside the NFL conversations began picking up steam. There is something deeply ironic about Tyreek Hill's situation. Just 18 months ago, he agreed to a restructured contract that made him one of the highest-paid skill position players in the NFL. His restructured deal represented the most guaranteed money ever added to a contract without adding any years, an NFL record. He was, by the league's own valuation metrics, the most valuable non-quarterback in football. Coach Mike McDaniel praised him publicly, saying, "When you have leadership from one of the best players, if not the best player in the league, it's impossible for teammates not to listen." And now he's persona non grata, rehabbing at the Miami Dolphins practice facility even though he's no longer on the team, posting photos from the building where he used to work, as if haunting the hallways of his former life. The optics are stark. The NFL's ownership meetings in Phoenix in late March offered a window into how owners are thinking about the broader landscape. Owners approved 5 new playing rules, including provisions that would allow the league to use replacement officials and correct their mistakes from a replay center in case of a work stoppage. With the NFL Referees Association, that tells you the mindset. Owners are consolidating control wherever they can, whether it's over officials, over rules, or over the mechanisms that keep players tied to their system. The idea of any individual, whether it's a referee or a superstar receiver, having too much independent power is something they are actively working to neutralize. And that's the real context behind why Hill exploring opportunities outside the NFL has created such agitation among owners. It's not about one 32-year-old wide receiver. It's about the precedent. If Hill plays somewhere else and draws eyeballs, and given his name recognition and highlight reel history, he absolutely would draw eyeballs. It legitimizes the alternative. It says to every player sitting out a contract dispute, every veteran cut to save cap space, every mid-career star forced to take a discount, there is another way. The NFL's entire economic model depends on the idea that there is no other way. The salary cap, the franchise tag, the restricted free agency system, the compensatory pick formula, all of these mechanisms exist to give owners leverage over players. If players have somewhere else to go, that leverage erodes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly, incrementally, in a way that adds up over time. Now, the reality check. As of this moment, Hill has not formally signed a contract with any league outside the NFL. His agent has said he intends to play in 2026 and is focused on getting back to 100%. Multiple teams, the Chiefs, Bears, Chargers, Patriots, Commanders, and others, have been linked to him in various reports. The most logical outcome is still that Hill signs with an NFL team sometime around or after the draft when rosters crystallize and teams know exactly what they need. But the fact that the conversation even exists, the fact that a first ballot Hall of Famer has been sitting unsigned long enough for credible whispers about non-NFL options to emerge, says something profound about the state of the league and the power dynamics within it. His 11,363 career receiving yards rank 9th most by a player in his first 10 seasons in NFL history. His 28 touchdowns of 50 yards or longer are the 4th most all time, and he's unemployed. The NFL has always been a business first. Every player knows that. Hill himself knew it when he told Kansas City to trade him in 2022 so he could get paid. He knew it when he demanded a restructured deal from Miami in 2024, and he knows it now. Sitting at home, recovering from surgery, watching the draft approach with his name still on the free agent wire. Whether Hill ultimately signs with an NFL team or shocks the world by going elsewhere, the damage is already done in one sense. The conversation has shifted. Players are paying attention, and the next time a star gets frozen out, the question won't be, will he wait for the NFL to call? It'll be, where else can he go? That's the question owners don't want anyone asking, and that's why the mere possibility of Tyreek Hill signing outside the NFL has them reacting the way they are. Because in the end, this was never just about Tyreek Hill. It's about control. It always has been.